spiders. Spiders are considered by the general population to be evil, ill-intended, malicious creatures that seek to inject their deadly venom into your body any chance they get. And if you're arachnophobic and haven't clicked off yet, you're probably just too far from the screen to do so right now. But in reality, spiders really aren't that bad. For one, they terrorize and purge all mosquitoes that they happen upon, which already makes them better than most animals. But also most of them are basically harmless to humans, so if you're scared of spiders, you're a little baby and scaredy cat. I say this from the comfort of my home in Central Europe, where if I see an itsy-bitsy spider, I move in an arc around it. But what if you're in somewhere like Australia, where I'm pretty sure is where dragons live? The spiders there are huge! Surely you'd have to watch out a little bit more for them, right? Probably. That being said, I'm pretty sure Webbed will at some point be used as an example of Stockholm Syndrome on a psychology paper somewhere. A sort of 2D Spider-Man minus the man, Webbed is a cute little open-world platformer made by S-Bug Games, where you're a spider and you swing around using your spider webs. Platforming in Webbed is heavily based around momentum and you being a spider. You've of course got spider webs, with which you can pull yourself towards whatever object you're looking at and also place down as permanent platforms. And to remove any unwanted spider webs or just anything else that's destructible, you use your laser eyes that you have, naturally, to obliterate them. You can also do a silly little spider dance, which doesn't serve much purpose, but I think it's pretty awesome. All of this together makes for a simple moveset that is delightful to use. The web physics feels surprisingly good, considering the game was worked on for about 2 years by 2 people. They probably spent half of the time on that. Swinging and spinning webs around feels almost exactly as good as it looks, which surprisingly isn't something I can say for a lot of other games. You can wrap webs around objects, create slingshots, practice medieval torture, and it all feels exhilarating. Starting the game, you're taken through a quick little tutorial that explains, everything I just explained. Accompanying us is our boyfriend spider here. We play as a girl, by the way, and we pointlessly sling around together until... a bowerbird kidnaps our boyfriend. Fortunately, we're really cool and awesome, so we go on a journey to save him. As we depart, we meet a moth friend who tells us about the bowerbird. And turns out that the bird is fucked up and eats whole families, which is seemingly bad news for our spider boyfriend. Fortunately, bowerbirds like to steal shiny blue stuff and use it as decoration. And seeing as our lover fits the description, the bird is probably only interested in using him as that. Moth friend, however, has a genius plan. You see, there's a big ant colony below the tree we're on, and they wanted to use his old nest as an airship for defense. We could help them build it and then use the airship to reach the bowerbird. So he tasks us with 3 things to do. Talk to the ants, get a guide so we know what we're doing, preferably a bee, and get fuel for the ship. And then we're set free to roam the game's world, which is made up of 3 different interconnected areas you may visit at any point, all available from the hub at the start, with each containing one of the 3 tasks you've been told to do. The order in which you complete the areas is completely up to you, and I'll discuss each with this arbitrary one I just picked. To the east, you have the canopy, which I'm willing to guess is where most people would head first based on the fact it's to the right. The focus in this level is on exploration, as the main goal of this area is to collect at least 20 out of the 42 pollen thingies and deliver them to the queen bee waiting at the end, who will then birth the princess bee, the guide you're looking for. It's a balanced area designed with precision in mind, with plenty of thin branches with which you need enough control over your speed to grab onto and not fall straight into inconveniently placed spikes or the death pit below. It's the perfect environment for letting the player adapt to their surroundings and find out how they want to experience the game. Like, maybe you want to just slowly build your way towards the end goal and have a little web path from beginning to end, or maybe you want to be, not a fucking loser. No bias. Heading down into the underground ant cave, we go ask the worker ants for help. However, their colony is currently recovering from a recent raid by fire ants, and the ants need some of your help first to rebuild it and also build a giant mech ant before they can help you in return. This area instead has a large focus on puzzles, as you'll be putting together gears and pipes back into their place to reinstate an offline water pump, putting together mech legs to then attach to the mech ant, etc. None of these are especially difficult or anything. Your greatest enemy with these puzzles is definitely some of the clunkiness that the game's physics have. We'll get to that later. But they don't overstay their welcome, and at the very least they display a somewhat clever usage of your web abilities. Finally, going west is the dunghill, where you will have to get dung from dung beetles to use as fuel, which frankly makes little sense considering that they already have fuel. Undoubtedly my favorite area in the game. This is where you're let to go wild. Wide and spacious areas, little to no spikes, and lots of platforms to swing on. Of course, there are some puzzles along the way to try to hold you back, but you see, whereas normal people do this dumb, stupid rock puzzle so that this dumb, stupid platform raises up to progress in the dumb, stupid game, Others aren't fucking losers! The game respects you and your intelligence, and if you really don't want to do a puzzle, it gives you a faster but harder to find way out. Aside from this bridge building part that you're forced to do, where unfortunately the guy you're leading across your bridge has 15 different mental deficiencies and the shittiest pathfinding in a 2D game! All of this is accompanied by the whimsical and wondrous soundtrack done by Stein von Wackere that is also dynamic. Go underwater and sounds of bubbles popping will join the composition. Stop moving and gradually, so will the music, etc. It pairs greatly with the cute, detail-full pixel art style the game goes for and really makes each area all that more of a delight to play through. The hub and canopy have rather playful and soothing piano tracks that fit the greenery and nature that define those areas. The Ant Cave, while still gentle on the other hand, feels more sophisticated with its use of violins. And whenever you're near the more central parts of the colony, it incorporates the whirs of engines, drills, and clanging of iron to create the atmosphere of an urgent, hard, physical work environment. Which, you know, worker ants, it makes sense. And Dunghill is like... It's like... Never in my life would I think I'd genuinely enjoy a song that has a banjo as one of its main instruments. But here we are. It's a lot more of a fast-paced and adventurous feeling track than the other areas, which perfectly fits the area's more open design. Regarding the game, aside from the main objectives you're tasked with at the beginning, there are also various secrets and side activities specific to each area that you can take on through various means. Doing these will usually give you nice little cosmetic rewards in the form of stickers that change your appearance when used, either in the form of a hat or a skin. For example, for collecting all of the 42 pollen and talking to the queen bee, you're made into a princess. And excuse me for going on a bit of a tangent here, but how exactly does this work? Was I just adopted and are now part of the royal family and in the line of succession? Was I just granted the principality and land to rule over? Because if it's either, that's a pretty insane reward for just collecting some pollen, something that, you know, bees already do. But then again, it did directly result in the princess bee's birth. So yeah, mostly cosmetics. Aside from... call this one the O'Neill. I'm not saying this is better than something like the Tony Hawk games or Skate Free, but were you a spider in those games? Anyways, moving on to the whole airship and bird thing now. Once you're done with the free areas and the tasks bestowed upon you, comes the part of making that airship. The worker ants have already done most of the heavy work, but now it's down to you to get the dung to the top and assemble all the parts together with your spider webs. I think this part is really neat. Well, it's not all too special of an occasion that you have to use your spider webs to put together something. You've already been doing that the entire game, but I don't know. It's something so simple that feels like the game would do for you in a cutscene or off screen, and yet you're the one doing it manually. Which, let me be clear, in no way am I saying that's like a bad thing or anything, since games usually have good reason to do so, but here it feels different. The feeling of actually ascending into the skies with the airship is made all the more grand thanks to this and makes the segment a lot more memorable. I appreciate it. The Skybower is the final area of the game, throughout which plays a very ominous tune. Unlike the other areas, this one is linear and only accessible this one time, so make the most of it. Or don't, because honestly, this area kind of sucks. The first part of the stage is based around these low-gravity gems that you have to insert into beds of sticks to open doors, which is okay, I guess. A little annoying, if anything. Then we finally reunite with our boyfriend, which is a very sweet and happy moment until you realize that these two right here share a brain. From here on out, he replaces the gems as a door opener and you use your spider dance to lead your boyfriend towards where you are. Unfortunately, he follows you directly in a straight line, so if there's any obstacles between you two, he will keep ramming his stupid fucking head into them in hopes that maybe one day he'll be able to fade through. He also likes to fall off webs for no reason, which is very cool. As you traverse through the remaining parts of the nest, the bird finds you and jump scares you. This scared me on 2 playthroughs. From here on out, you will have to find openings where you can either block the bird off from eating you or wait for it to go somewhere else. Eventually, though, you end up outside and the princess bee is there waiting for you. The bird, however, insists that our boyfriend stays with him and we make chase. You laser it a few times, reinforcement comes, you have to bring the ship closer to the bird with your webs, which you desperately shoot off screen in hopes that you hit your target. And with that, the bird is taken to the ground with the mech ant at its neck. The moth makes a speech about expelling the beast and it complies, the day is saved, and you receive a neat sticker for your troubles. So yeah, the game has some prevalent issues. A big part of those, I'd say, is definitely how the camera tends to work against you sometimes. I already mentioned that one part in the boss fight where you just spam right click and hopes you'll be able to pull the mech ant towards you, which I feel would be very easily fixed by just, you know, zooming out. But also in general, if you're trying to do any precise web shots while still, the camera will move with your cursor and make that a bit harder. The bridge building and airship come to mind, which, for the latter, by no means does that ruin how cool that segment is to me. It's a little annoying at worst, I know, but I have broken brain syndrome and this really vexes me. If I could suggest a fix for this, I would say add something like a camera lock when you press T, for example. And although earlier I praised the physics for how organic they feel to move around with, this does not mean they're always very stable. Just saying a perpetual motion machine is not realistic. What is this doing in my game about laser eye spiders? And even though I'd say the jankiness of the physics usually tends to play into their fun factor, it's not always the case. These bendy pipes, despite being only present in the ant cave and for a brief moment in Skybower, are on the very, very much dislike side of dealing with. When handling them, it's like, wow, am I playing Webbed or fucking Surgeon Simulator? I can't tell. There's also some minor glitches here and there, like being able to fly infinitely if you attach yourself to the princess bee in the bird chase, and also a bug where the game sometimes just forgets how to be a Windows program. And finally, something that isn't really an issue to me, but I know can be for other people. The game is $10 and really short. A 100% playthrough takes, I think, around 5 hours or so, which is really not much. However, much like any other good platformer, this game is very replayable. It's that fun movement and well-crafted open levels I talked about that could potentially turn that 5-hour experience into a much longer one. For instance, the game, as a result of its movements focus on momentum, is very fun to speedrun, and considering how weak I perceive Skybower to be, assuming it was done last, I think it's even kind of a good thing that the game is at the length that it is. However, whether you think that is worth the price is up to you. And if I was you, I would say yes, very, very much, yeah. And yes, for those of you still in that corner, there is indeed an arachnophobia mode that replaces all the spiders with circle blobs? What the fuck are they? I neglected to mention it until the end because I'm just evil and fucked up like that. Concluding, Webbed is a pretty damn neat little physics platformer. It's a short but amazing experience that, while it has a pretty weak ending, is great in all other regards. Beautiful visuals, wonderful soundtrack, and most importantly, silky smooth gameplay. It's available on Steam for relatively cheap, or GOG if you're that kind of guy. If you're looking for a good 2D physics platformer that is infinitely replayable, Webbed is very much for you. And if not from me, take it from the overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam, if you trust that, of course.